How much do you actually need to retire? It sounds like a simple question, but if you spend even 10 minutes searching online, you'll come away more confused than when you started. I know because I did exactly that when I was getting ready to leave my job. Every article had a different answer. Every calculator spit out a different number. And after a while, I started to wonder if any of these people had ever actually retired themselves. So when I came across Fidelity's article, the one titled, "How Much Do I Need to Retire?" I sat down and read the whole thing. Fidelity is a big name. They manage trillions of dollars, and I figured if anyone was going to give a solid, trustworthy answer, it would be them. But when I finished reading, I had problems with it. Not because Fidelity is a bad company, they're not, but because the advice they were giving, in my opinion, could lead a lot of people in the wrong direction if they follow it without thinking it through. Here's what the article says. Their main guideline is to save 10 times your pre-retirement income by age 67. And they break it down into milestones along the way. 1 times your salary by 30, 3 times by 40, 6 times by 50, 8 times by 60, and 10 times by 67. Sounds clean, sounds simple. That's the problem. They give an example in the article. A woman planning to retire at 67. The idea is that she's saved 10 times her income, which for the sake of this, let's say is around $170,000. So she's got $1.7 million saved. Good number, right? Sounds like plenty. But here's where it gets tricky. Buried in the fine print, Fidelity's model assumes her expenses in retirement will be just 45% of her pre-retirement income. Let me say that again, 45%. So if she was making $170,000, the plan assumes she's only going to spend about $76,000 a year. That's it. Now, I retired at 58, 7 years ago, and I can tell you from real life, not a spreadsheet, that 45% is not realistic for a lot of people. When I first retired, Linda and I didn't spend less, we spent more. We finally had the time to do all the things we'd been putting off. We traveled. We fixed up the house. We went out to eat more. We helped our kids when they needed it. The first 5, 6, 7 years of retirement, for most people I know, are the most active and the most expensive. You're healthy, you're energized, and you're finally free. You're not cutting your spending in half, you're living. So let's go back to that example. If instead of spending $76,000 a year, she spends $100,000, which honestly isn't extravagant for someone who is earning $170,000, the picture changes dramatically. That $1.7 million starts shrinking a lot faster. And if the market doesn't cooperate, say you're getting 3.5% returns instead of the 6% the model assumes, things get worse. You combine slightly higher spending with slightly lower returns, and suddenly that safe number doesn't look so safe anymore. That's what happened when I ran my own numbers. I sat down with a proper plan, not a rule of thumb, and I plugged in what Linda and I actually spend, what we actually expect from Social Security, what our investments actually look like. And the number I needed was different from what any generic formula would have told me. Not wildly different, but different enough that if I just followed the 10x rule and stopped thinking, I might have been in trouble 10 years in. And here's the other thing nobody talks about. Retirement isn't static. Life changes. A friend of mine retired right around the same time I did, and within 2 years his wife got sick. The medical bills alone blew past anything their plan accounted for. Another buddy had to help his son with a down payment on a house. That wasn't in the spreadsheet either. These aren't unusual situations. They're life. And a rule of thumb doesn't account for life. The real danger with something like Fidelity's 10x rule is that it gives people false confidence. Someone hits that number and thinks, I'm good, I'm set. And then they stop paying attention. They stop updating their plan. They stop making adjustments. And that's where people get into trouble. Not on day one of retirement, but 5 or 8 or 12 years in, when the small drifts have added up and suddenly you're way off course. I think of it like this. Imagine you're driving a long distance. You set your GPS at the start, and the route looks great. But then there's construction, then a detour, then weather. If you never look at the GPS again after you first set it, you're going to end up somewhere you didn't plan to be. Retirement planning works the same way. The plan you make on day one is a starting point. It's not the finish line. The value isn't in the plan itself, it's in the process of planning, going back to it, adjusting it, keeping it honest. So when I look at Fidelity's article, do I think it's useless? No. If you're 25 years old and you've never thought about retirement for a single day in your life, and that article gets you to start saving, then fine, it did its job. But if you're 50, 55, 60, getting close to actually making this decision, you need more than a rule of thumb. You need a real plan built around your real life. Your actual expenses, not 45% of some hypothetical income. Your actual health situation, your actual goals. Because your retirement is not the same as some fictional character's retirement in an article. I learned that the hard way. Not because I ran out of money, I didn't, but because the emotional and logistical side of retirement was harder than I expected. And if I had also been financially uncertain on top of that, it would have been a nightmare. The saving was the easy part. Knowing how to spend it, knowing it would last, knowing I could adjust when things changed, that was the real work. So if you're reading articles like that one, read them. Educate yourself. But don't stop there. Don't let one number from one article make you think you've got it all figured out. You deserve better than a rule of thumb. You deserve a real plan.